Hi Dharma, thank you for meeting us here today. Can you please tell us your name and tell us a bit about yourself and your role in residence?
Uh, Hi, good morning. My name is Dharma Velo.
My name is Sean.
Daniel Grijalba.
Ray Arandia.
Alison Price.
Matthew Nichaporic. I don't usually make most people say my last name.
My name is Johnny Bridge. I am one of the 3 residence chefs for Residence Dining, which is Totem, Open Kitchen, Place Vanier, or Gather.
I work for Place Vanier, Student Housing and Hospitality Services. I work there as assistant housekeeping supervisor.
I am a front desk services representative at Ponderosa.
I work as a service worker in Place Banner.
I'm a front desk service representative at Place Vanier.
I've been working with UBC Food Services for 25 years.
I'm a front desk service representative, FDSR, at Place Vanier, full-time permanent now.
I'm situated at Gather. I've been there for 4.5 years. I'm in charge of the food program for that location and then the coordination of the larger food program for Residence Dining. Essentially, our role is to be nurturing these young minds.
And how did you get into this role and into food?
Oh man, that is quite a long story. I've been in kitchen since I was about 16 years old. I just kind of stumbled on it in my teens, fell in love with it, traveled with it around the world, and coming to UBC was really a decision to be able to cook for the largest amount of people in one location possible. UBC being one of the larger kind of food purveyors in Canada. I mean, the only larger operation than us, to my knowledge, is the Pearson's Airport in Toronto. So it was really like, how can I affect the most people possible?
And it must be a pretty demanding job. Like, what motivates you to keep going?
Many things motivate me. I think that one of the really cool things that we have here to speak to, like the volume, is the interaction. To be able to every day be in a dining room in residence at UBC with thousands of students who live there and rely on us to get them through their daily nutrition. Sometimes not even their nutrition, just their daily happiness. You know, a certain aspect of it is to be able to feed people the nutritional aspects they need, but there's also that little piece that needs to be like, you know, mac and cheese with bacon on it to make you comfortable on a day where you're having a tough afternoon or you have exams coming up, or you know, interacting with a student who says that their mom used to make them something and finding a way to make that for them. So that kind of keeps the fire going.
That's beautiful. I love that you put like your own sense of love into the food you make.
Yeah.
I always like to work in educational institution because my parents both were teachers, and I also kind of attracted towards work in educational student. And I started my role in food services. I was cooking there in food service. Then I gradually had a summer opportunity to work as a housekeeper for student housing and hospitality. Then I moved on as a service worker. Then gradually I ended up as a supervisor. Currently I'm working as assistant supervisor there.
I applied for a housekeeping job. I thought that would be convenient for school hours. And when I was in the interview, they said, oh, there's this other position, but it pays more money, but you have to work night shifts. I said, that's all right. So that's how I got the job I have.
I've been in the job since early January. Came over from a bunch of years in food services, and I'm just kind of starting to figure out what it's all about.
I just applied to UBC and for this role and got the interview, and then I got in. Yeah, I had previous experience in customer service. That's why the front desk was what appealed to me.
When I grew up in my hometown, I volunteered at a local theater company, and I was strictly behind the scenes. I had to go on stage once, and I hated it. I did not want to be out there. Yeah.
I keep my relationship with food pretty intimate. I think that one of the things that keeps the fire lit there is thinking about future generations and what they'll be able to cook, what they'll be able to produce, and how we can sustain the food system moving forwards. Because right now our processes are not sustainable. The long game is struggling to provide information that we're even going to be able to have animal proteins in our diets moving forward. So I think the fire in me is just like thinking about what the future holds for food.
How does it make you feel when someone takes the time to learn your name and ask you about your day?
It's very nice when the people say hello, when the people knows your name. it motivates to continue working because that means that people is interested in you and maybe that you are doing your job in a good way. So
That's a really nice touch when people start calling you by name. It's nice. It makes, I try to remember names as much as possible, but there's a lot of you. And yeah, it's always nice when somebody sort of is able to bring up something that you've talked about in the past and be able to relate it and know that you've sort of connected in some way with them. The most rewarding thing is just those simple little fun connections that you have with people, the hello, the goodbye, the chatting with people, the love that I get from, there's a couple of people that have emotional support animals, and yeah, the love that I get from Benny every day when he comes in from his pee, and he comes bounding over to the desk looking for scratches. That's probably the highlight of the day, actually.
Throughout the years, I made a lot of friends, student friends from residents, from Totem, from Orchard, even the year when I started. And we're still friends till now, and everybody's getting married and having kids, and I'm happy to see that. And some of them even invites me to their wedding. I got invited to Vietnam for a wedding, and like, Vietnam? Sure, I'm going, because I've never been there, but I'm glad I did, because it's something that I would never forget, and I was just glad and so happy that I got invited to her wedding, and I just can't say no.
Last year there was a young gal named Adiola, and she just had a really positive energy about her, and so I just liked seeing her every once in a while. She'd just say hi and I'd say hi, and then this group of friends she had, they wanted the study room, so I would always let them have it like a little bit longer than they should, and then at the end of the year they bought me a mug, and the last day of the year is super like stressful, so when they gave me the mug I just started bawling. I actually don't cry that much, but I did cry that time. Yeah. If I wake up in a bad mood, I like to pray. I say, God, just give me someone that I could help today. And normally there's someone, and it's usually just a simple thing, but yeah, I don't know, it makes my day. It makes me feel like I'm doing something more than just occupying space. Every once in a while you get to really help someone, maybe twice a year, some sort of crisis situation, and that's kind of how I intend to spend my life, so it's always good to know even anyone in any role can be that person for someone.
I'd been working at UBC about 3 months, and there was a young lady who came to the desk, and she was quite ill and required an ambulance, but she was also pretty scared about it as well, so I was able to sit with her and help her cope with it, because it was all so terribly new for her, because the first year students are very young. So that was good. I felt good to be able to prepare her for what was sort of almost coming, if you will. Yeah. They actually came back the day after when she came out and thanked us for helping her, because she really was unsure of where to go and what to do next. Yeah.
That's so sweet, and she's lucky to have had you there.
Well, thank you.
I think a lot of people, when they come here, it's a lonely place. I think Vancouver's a lonely place, UBC's a lonely place, and people need other people. So if you can connect them, I mean, I don't think I usually become their friend, but I can maybe help them find a friend, so that's more my speed.
And what might be like a frustrating part of your job?
At the front desk, it's I would say that because we have so many residencies, often you are at different residence desks randomly, and so you have to be flexible and be able to remember those people in that residence, and in the end, ideally you'd know everybody who was in residence, but there's just so many of them. Yeah, so it's the movement, I think.
ACAM, Caleb, take one.
My name is Caleb. I am currently in second year in media studies.
My name's Ellie. I live in Gage, and I have been since September from this year.
My name is Kezia. I'm a second year student. I transferred from UBCO. There was an incident where our front door was broken on our unit, and even though it was close to the end time of like the shift for the maintenance staff, there was a worker that stayed past 11 o'clock to make sure that our door got fixed before the end of the night so that it was locked before we went to sleep.
I had a week at the end of the year, about April, where I had a couple kind of incidents that I had never kind of dealt with in my own way before, where I had a mouse in my room at the start of the month, and then 3 days later, my bike got stolen. And the front desk workers were really supportive and really helpful in terms of helping me process and deal with those things and know what to do next. So the mouse in the room, they got me set up with the maintenance staff. They helped me put in the maintenance request. And then when my bike got stolen, it was a similar kind of thing. Got me linked up with, I believe it was the RCMP helpline, a bunch of resources that I would not have known were available if I didn't go and talk to the front desk staff. And it was actually the same person who was there at the front desk for both of those. And even though it was just kind of a small thing, they looked at me and when I came up and said I got my bike stolen, they were like, "Hey, you've had a bit of a rough week, haven't you?" And I was like, "Yeah, thank you." Like that means a lot to me, because it's like when you have all those things happen and it's the first year living by yourself. Normally a lot of that stuff has kind of been delegated. Like I'd get my mom to worry about it, or I'd get my dad to worry about it, and I can't do that anymore. But it's still overwhelming, especially when it's all happening all at once.
The front desk is always patient. Like they know that we are, or most of us are, first year residents, so we are kind of new in exploring life, adult life. I've tried to see them not just as workers, but really as people, and to at least address them by their name. Like not just a person in the front desk, but really Matthew, for example. Matthew, he is about 30 years old. I've even met his parents. And they are nice to me. Like when you get to know these people, you realize that they are people and they also like to know other people, like to interact, to have a conversation, even if it's small, but know a little bit of you.
Last year, I had a resident who was actually suffering from a really bad panic attack, and it was like 3 a.m. at night, and it was me and the front desk worker who were working through it together, and they really were like my rock in that situation as well, because I not only had to deal with the resident, but that person who was at the front desk helped me go through the whole situation, and it made the situation 10 times easier.
To be able to have someone to go up to and be like, "Hey, I have this problem and I don't know what I'm doing. Can I have some help? Can I have some support?" And for them to be so like welcoming and kind in terms of like, "We get it, like we've seen something like this before, the world isn't ending, here are some steps you can take," even though like I've never met this person before in my life. For them to be so welcoming and kind to me, like that meant a lot to me.
I definitely think we take their work for granted. There's just like, it's hard because there's no way for us to thank them really. Like at the end of maintenance worker service, they just leave, and it's, you know, in a way, their form of respect. Like they're saying, "This is your time, we're intruding in your space." But there really should be something in place for us to thank the people that we see all the time and that help our daily lives go better.
Going from that transition from like living at home to like living on campus, I think at home you have your parents do everything for you. You have them like, oh, like something's wrong in your room, or like, you know, something's wrong anywhere in general. Like, you go to them for help. But then when you come here, you're like, oh, okay, like you basically use housing staff as like a replacement for like things your parents would normally do at home. So like if there's something broken, they're the first people you call, or you lock yourself out, they're the ones you go to for help. But even with like your parents, you sometimes like, it's so like natural for you to like go and ask them for help that you don't realize the need to say thank you. Like, oh, you did this for me, but like, do I really appreciate what you've done for me? And it sort of becomes more so like an act of convenience instead of realizing that it's their job to help you.
So how do you think our community would be impacted if all the service workers didn't show up to work one day?
I think our world would be completely messed up. Like it would be flipped upside down, because they really are our frontline workers. Like they're the ones who show up every morning at like, 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. and they like fix things, they manage our meal, they clean, and like what would we be doing without them? Like not a lot. And I feel like the university, and we really need to acknowledge that. We need to like spread awareness about the fact that they're the ones who are actually putting in the work, and we need to appreciate them for it.
I think one of the biggest things and the dearest things that I hold is to be able to work as a chef in the myriad of things that I spoke to you about there. and to still have a family and to be a present father, to be there for my son. That's definitely the biggest achievement of all the things and all of the career and life. That's the number one. It's just like a breath of absolute pure oxygen into your life. I already have a lot of energy, but this really just invigorated me to look further than 5 years down the line, but to look more like 50 years down the line, to think of, not just what I'm doing for clients and for my wife and for the school, but to think about what I'm doing for a next generation.
Probably the coolest thing I've done in my life is I worked with the Coast Guard for a while, and I got to do an Arctic cruise with them. So we were working up there. We did about 1,500 nautical miles in 28 days across the Beaufort Sea, and it was spectacular. Yeah, probably the coolest thing I ever did.
I've been asking you all the questions, but is there a question that you wish you were asked more often?
How are you certainly goes a long ways.
To just check in with people, to, let's take the leadership thing out of it, but just to ask your peers, whether it be in a social aspect or in a professional thing or in a family scenario, how are you? Checking in with people around you, because so much goes on in our lives now in 2024. Life is expensive, things move fast. Education is a big piece. You just take a moment to check in with people and see how they actually are doing amidst all of this craziness that's going on.
Speaking of the next generation, what message would you give students and the people watching if you had a chance to talk to them?
Since we are talking about food today, I highly encourage all the student body to go to wherever it is that they're getting their food from and ask where it comes from. Engage the cooks, engage the chef, engage the managers. Hey, can you guys tell me where this food comes from? It's really, really important.
Mm-hmm. What I wish I had learned earlier is to ask people questions when they give opinions, not to decide on it one way or another. You learn more that way, and then you can make a better decision for yourself, I think.
Enjoy your time at university. Study hard, of course, but make sure that you take that time to go out and have fun. Don't sweat it if you blow an exam. Yeah, mom and dad are going to be mad, but they'll get over it. It's just make sure that you sort of make the most of your time, and don't just sit in your room and study the whole time. Get out and enjoy life.
And I would say do your share as well. Like when you consume something that is considered as a common space, make sure that is available in a condition like before you used for the next person to use it.
Not to get stressed out about something that is out of their control. Everything is in your control, but you just have to put a schedule on your day. A lot of them are like, oh my God, Ray, I'm so stressed out. I've got midterm later and I have to write a paper. It is stressful, but you have to manage your time. When I was in school, I used to do my homework really early. Like as soon as I get home, I do it. That means I have more free time later to play, and I do understand about the block. Like when you're writing something and you just can't write anymore and you just stop, take a break, go for a walk, go somewhere, do something, even play video games or something, and then that kind of clears your mind, and then when you go back to it, that should give you a fresher mindset to continue.
If you could give students one message, what would it be?
Check your pockets and make sure that you have your key before you leave the house.